Go and look for your microphones, go and look for everything you're going to need, all right, to practice tonight with me. Notebook, microphone, good environment, pretty much that, right? No more than that. Well, we're live, so let's go. Okay, so I have a bunch of practices already settled and prepared for you tonight. So let me share my screen and let us go directly to the first exercise. Well, here we are. So here you have the first passage, okay? I'm actually going to, sorry, I'm going to reboost it. I think it's better. Okay, great. So as you know, before you actually respond to this second question, you have to receive and analyze two materials. The first one is a reading passage that contains information regarding events, activities, changes taking place on campus within a university. And then you're going to listen to a conversation of two students from the same university, discussing the very same topic, okay? So your task after you read and listen both of these materials is to prepare a summary, discussing what the reading passage said, discussing what the main speaker of the conversation said, and then of course, let's say, compacting all that within the minute you have for responding this question, which, as we learned yesterday, is all you have for responding, right? Just 1 minute or 60 seconds. Well, you know what to do. So here you have the first passage. It's in the chat box and also in the WhatsApp group. I'm going to paste it in both places, just in case, of course, you find any of them to be more favorable to you. So please, you can read here in the WhatsApp group and you can read also in the chat box, okay, of Zoom. Well, you get 4 or 5 seconds to read this passage, as you know. So please, all of you, start reading this passage now. All right, there you are. So now it's time for you to listen to a conversation, okay, of two students from the same university discussing the very same topic. This talk that is going to be held by the university, in which is a state of, this is Secretary of the State is going to be, of course, talking about something. Listen to the conversation, say your notes, and then we're going to start with the preparation.
Now listen to two students discussing the announcement.
Can you believe that the Secretary of State's speech is being limited to students in the political science and government departments? It's really unfair that they get guaranteed access.
Wait, really? I mean, don't you agree that the Secretary of State's speech is especially important to students in government and political science?
But what about students in history or cultural studies? It's wrong to assume that just because someone studies government, the speech would automatically be more important for them.
I guess so, but can't you still apply to get a seat? So if it is important to you, you can just, show them that it is.
With the essay? That's not exactly ideal. The people who judge the essays will be professors from government and political science. They have their own ideas about what good and bad reasons are. They'll be too prejudiced.
You think?
Oh, totally. I mean, how would they be able to judge an essay by someone like a poet or a computer scientist or a sculptor? They'll probably just dismiss those essays completely.
The female student expresses her opinion about why she disagrees with the university's new policy. State her opinion and explain the reasons she gives for holding that opinion.
Oh, there you are. So now it's time for us to start with the preparation and to design responses, okay? So in order to respond to the question, we have to design responses using the template we analyzed together in class. If you remember, I showed you this, right? This template that I hope you somehow have already collected and pasted, whether your notes or whether or your computer or something, and you have saved this information, right? The template you have to use. Here you have it anyways. You can take a picture now if you have not done so in the past, but this is the template you have to use, right? Well, you know how to do this, and in any case, I'm going to realize it by myself later on. So please, the two of you, dear students, you can start preparing your responses, and you get 30 seconds to do so, okay? So please start preparing your responses now. Great, there you are. Now it's time for you to start responding to the question, okay? So in this case, my dear Daniela, please, you're going to help me, and you're going to be the first one responding in this round, okay? So please, you can turn on your microphone, and you can start responding to this question now.
Okay, to begin with, in the reading passage, it shows that a secretary of state are making a speech that is important for the students. On another hand, one of the students are not is not agree for this kind of speeches because they are making only 1,000 seats. I don't know the first name. Oh my God, I have more time. Yes, I have. The first main speaker is telling us that she is not okay with this, and the second main speaker is telling her that she can have another kind of solutions for this kind of a speech. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniela, fantastic. Now let's go with our dear Arlette. So please, Arlette, you can start responding to this question now.
Okay. To begin with, in the reading passage, the university are preparing a course with the Secretary of State, and it's for the career of government science politique. On the other hand, there is a student who isn't agree with this type of modality because of the of the selection of the student. She thinks is unfair because the other students are also in the right to assist and
Beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Great. Okay, awesome, fantastic. So let me offer some feedback to both of you. So first of all, I have a general recommendation, okay, for both of you. And that's concerning the usage of the word agreeing or a verb, right? The verb agreeing or disagreeing. Now, in Spanish, the way we use that verb is by saying, yo estoy de acuerdo, right? We are prefacing the verb disagreeing or agreeing by the verb to be. Now, in English, you find a different circumstance. In English, what happens is that you don't actually need to use the verb to be in order to preface the agreeing or disagreeing verb. You can actually say, I agree, she agrees, he disagrees, without the usage of the verb to be. So, for example, if you want to say, yo pienso, or in this case, right, yo estoy en acuerdo, you don't say, I am agree. or you don't say, for example, in third person, she is disagree, or you don't say he is disagree. You simply say, I agree, she disagrees, he agrees, right? And exactly, of course, the same when you want to use the negative version of such a verb. I disagree, she disagrees, he disagrees, or the positive version, I agree, he agrees, she disagrees, they agree, we agree, right? So it's not necessary to have the verb to be as an intermediate verb, right? It's not necessary. So please try to apply that, okay, in your future responses. Don't worry about it anyways. It's a very common confusion because in Spanish, right, we are very much used and we're actually very much accustomed to pronounce the verb to be right before we talked about the agreeing or disagreeing verb. So it's a very common thing, okay? Don't worry about that. Great, now getting into the specifics. So Lanila, you offered a great summary. Now here, what I would recommend you is notice that the summary you presented of the reading passage was great. I think that it was very complete and very efficient because you didn't use a lot of time there. Now notice that when I say in this template that the summary you present of the conversation must contain the first main speaker's reason and the second main speaker's reason, what I mean by this is that you're going to mention both of the arguments presented by the single main speaker in the conversation. Given that in the conversation we listen and in the future conversations we're going to listen, there is no such a thing as two speakers. That is to say, two main speakers, sorry. Two speakers, of course, you always find two people talking, but there is just one speaker that is the main one within them. You're never going to find two main speakers, but there is always a main speaker and a secondary speaker. The main speaker is that person who offers his or her opinion and presents arguments and reasons for holding that opinion, just as you did in the last question you remember of the speaking section when you were asked, what do you think? Blue or red? Which is the best color? And you said, right, I think it's blue because of these reasons. And you started and you argue, etc. Exactly the same here. The main speaker is going to do exactly the same. He'll be delivering his opinion or her opinion and offering reasons, arguments, motives why he believes that. In your case, you have to identify that person. And when you're summarizing your conversation, concentrate in summarizing what he said or she said, not about the other speaker, not about the secondary one. Actually, try to completely ignore her or ignore him. Don't mention the secondary speaker. As in this case, Arlette did, right? She didn't mention the secondary speaker. She focused all her attention, in this case, on the main speaker, that in the conversation was the female student, right? The one that presented her opinion, she offered reasons, etc. So try to implement that, right, in your next response. You say, right, on the other hand, we listen to two students discussing this, yes, two students, but one of them, the main speaker, right, one of them disagree with this idea because of these reasons. First of all, she believed it is unfair to have all political science students assistant, and of course, letting all these other people out of the talk or out of the convention just because they are not part of that field. And secondly, she also thinks it is a terrible idea to have professors from political science judging the essays and entrances for being admitted in the talk anyways, because the criteria is different when you are a science professor than when you're an artist professor, etc., right? So notice, try to do it that way, okay? By concentrating on the main speaker, there's just one main speaker, and the third and the fourth step is where you discuss those arguments he or she presented in depth. You take your time in order to discuss them, what they were, etc. Okay, very good response anyways. Then Arlette's beautiful response as well. The only thing was, of course, when you said, right, the thing about I agree or she is agreeing, right? But that was a very much common mistake, don't worry. Apart from that, great response, very good, okay? Awesome, so let's move on to next exercise. We have plenty of them, so don't worry about that. And let's go and read this new passage, okay? Awesome. So, do I have it? Great. So as you read this passage, I'm gonna go for my charger, okay, to charge my computer. So here you have it. And once I come back, you're gonna have to listen to the conversation, okay? So you have it there, and you also have it here. Please read this passage, and when I come back, we're gonna start with the conversation, okay? So please read. Great, I came back. Now let's go and listen to a conversation of two students discussing the same topic. Okay, let's go.
Now listen to two students discussing the announcement.
Can you believe this ridiculous new policy about vegetarian meals every Friday?
What's wrong with it? I mean, I thought you were a vegetarian. Isn't this exactly what you would want?
Yeah, I'm vegetarian, but we told the head of the dining hall that it was unfair that every day of the week the hot meal seemed to include meat, and students like me were basically forced to have cold dinner all the time.
What's the problem then?
We pay a full meal plan like everybody else does, but we don't get hot food like everybody else does. We wanted a vegetarian option to be included every day of the week on the menu as an alternative for vegetarians, so we can have a proper meal for dinner.
But one meal a week is better than nothing, you know?
Not really. The university thinks that this will appease us, but I still have to eat salad 4 days a week. It's really repetitive.
Yeah, I could see that getting old.
Tell me about it. And have you actually used the salad bar? Half of it is totally inedible. The lettuce is all wilted. The tomatoes are tasteless. It's not exactly fine dining.
The female student expresses her opinion about why she disagrees with the university's new policy. State her opinion and explain the reasons she gives for holding that opinion.
Great, there you are. So notice that here, I think it's very much accurate to highlight what the question is asking you for. Notice that the question itself is telling you, hey, the female student, who of course in this case was the main speaker, right? Because the female student was the one presenting, her opinion, mentioning why she believed this new policy and this new alteration in a student's menu is actually insufficient to appease and have vegetarian students content, right? She gives two arguments or three, if I'm not wrong, for defending that position. So she is the main speaker. And notice how the question itself tells you, hey, the female student that we know as the main speaker expresses her opinion about why she disagrees with the university's new policy. State her opinion, right? Look at it. It's asking you not to talk about what both of them said. No, the male student in this case is totally irrelevant. He's not even presenting relevant or considerable information. He is just reacting to her, right? He says, oh yeah, you're right, or are you sure? Right. But I mean, it's sufficient, right? I mean, but he never actually says or raises a good point or something. No, he just reacts. But the person who actually integrates the response, who offers good information, relevant information, satisfactory information, is the female student in this case. So please try to concentrate your summary of the conversation on her. Talk about what she said, what arguments she presented, etc. Okay, great. So let's go to have the 30 seconds. Both of you, please start thinking about your responses now. Beautiful. Now it's time for you to respond to the question, dear students, and in this case, our dear Arlette is going to help us initializing this round, okay? So please, Arlette, you can start responding to the question now.
Okay. To begin with, in the reading passage, the university has a new policy for the food. They will serve hot milk, hot dish, vegetarian food in the dining for encourage the students to be more responsible of the things they eat. The other hand, there's a student who is vegetarian, but is not disagree with the new policy because she thinks it's 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 so limited. Sorry.
Okay, no, thank you very much. Fantastic, great. Okay, well, let's continue then with our dear Daniela, in this case, okay? So please, Daniela, you can start responding to the question now.
To begin with, in the reading passage, it shows that a cafeteria is changing a menu for the people that are vegetarian. On the other hand, we listened to students that are talking about these changes. And one of them disagrees with this because she thought that only dinner on Friday for the vegetarian people is not enough for her. And she thought that she's paying the same money to like another students, so she deserves 5 meals per day that are equal for the another students too. Yes, that's it.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Fantastic. Great, guys. Well, let me offer you some feedback. So starting by you, Arlette. So in this case, you offered a great response. Now you talked about the reading part, right? And notice that maybe in this case you were struggling a little bit with the time, right? Because in the last 10 seconds of your response, you tried to summarize what the main speaker in the conversation said. But you found your time to be too much narrow at that point because you spent maybe too much time summarizing the reading part in this case, right? So let us remember our previous principle, the one that we laid yesterday in the theoretical class when I said, right, the reading passage should be summarized as superficial as possible. So instead of making a very long explanation of what the reading passage said, you could have summarized it this way, like, in the reading passage we saw, the cafeteria is adding a new hot meal for vegetarians every weekend. That's it. And then you say, well, on the other hand, we listen to a student or two students discussing this, and one of them disagree with this idea because of this reason, right? So remember that in this case, it's better if we spend more time summarizing the conversation than the reading. As you look at it, the question itself is more interested, not in what the reading passage said, but on what the main speaker in the conversation said, in this case, the female student, right? So better if you employ most of your time talking about what she said, talking about her arguments and reasons, okay? But anyways, don't worry, it's just a matter of calibration. Great response anyways. And then we had Daniela. Great, Daniela. I think that you understood very well what I mentioned last time when you were responding. You offered a very good summary of the reading part, very much superficial, very great, vague and brief as it must be. Fantastic there. And then you also offered a great transition when finalizing the reading part and entering the body of your response that of course is constituted by the arguments of the main speaker. You said, right? Two students discuss this topic, one of them disagree, and then you started, right, to talk about the arguments that the main speaker offered. In this case, how necessary was for the cafeteria to offer 5 whole meals, not just one, right? You summarized that very much accurately, and if you notice, actually you had more time. You completed the response having extra time because you used it so efficiently. The response was very natural, well transitioned, and very well performed. So great. I think that it was a fantastic response, Daniela. Okay, great. Well, let's move on. We have more practices. Let's jump to this one. Okay, here we are. And so let's see what this one is all about. Well, I'm gonna paste it here in the chat box and also here in the WhatsApp group. Well, you can read there, and please, all of you, enjoy these 4 or 5 seconds to read this passage. Great, there you are. So let's go and listen to the conversation and take your notes, okay?
Now listen to two students discussing the article.
I really don't think this is a good idea.
Ah, really? It sounds like the ads could help the radio station make money.
Well, yeah, I guess. But the radio station already plays a lot of announcements.
Announcements?
Well, yes. Between shows, they announce campus events, changes in school policy, that kind of thing. If they add commercials too, there'll be a lot less time for the entertainment content.
Yeah, and they can't really stop running those announcements. There's a lot of important info there.
Yeah, and besides, does the college radio station really need to bring in more money? I mean, they just got new sound gear last year, and the music department already pays to bring famous singers to campus. Who cares if they're aired on campus radio if we get the chance to see them live?
I see what you mean. I've never had any problems with the programming myself.
Exactly. I think advertisers will just take up extra time. They won't really improve the station. You know, I think they'll just make things worse. I don't know if I'll keep listening if they really do start running ads.
Well, maybe you're right.
The woman expresses her opinion about the change described in the article. Briefly summarize the change, then state her opinion about the change and give the reasons she states for holding that opinion.
There you are. Well, now it's time for us to prepare the responses. And well, you can please start doing so now. Very good, there you are. And now, well, it's time for us to go and respond, okay? So in this case, please, dear Daniela, you're going to collaborate me, okay? So please, you can start responding to the question now.
Okay. To begin with, in the reading passage, we read about a school radio station that they wants to make more money for this station with advertisements. On another hand, two students of this university are talking about this. Both disagrees about this act because they thought that this is enough. They have enough announcements, and for more advertisements, this could change about the entertainment in the radio station. And for another in another, I don't have more time. Yeah. Yes. Oh,
Okay.
yes. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, don't worry. Fantastic. Great. Anyways, let's move on with our dear Arlette. So please, dear Arlette, you can start responding this one now.
Okay, to begin with, in the reading passage, we read about a radio station who wants to add advertising for make more money for the radio station. And on the other hand, a student disagree with this new policy because she thinks the purpose of the radio station will change. Also, there is a lot of announcement already in the radio station, so it will be a worst service. The university don't need much money. It's not the purpose. Okay.
Great, fantastic. Thank you very much, Arlette. Awesome. So, well, let's go with the analysis of your responses. Great. So I think that Daniela, you offered a very good response. Once again, your summary of the reading part is excellent. And then how you transition it too. It's very good. Now here, well, in this case, you talked to plural, right? Because you said there were two students and they disagree, right? So you were talking in plural. I guess that's fine for this case because, well, indeed, the speakers in the conversation, both of them in this case were disliking the idea of changing this. Actually, I would say that, well, at the beginning, the male student was a little bit reluctant, right? He said, but this isn't that good, right? So maybe it's better just to always talk to both the main speaker in a singular manner, like saying she disagree, right? Because the person who actually disagreed right from the beginning was the female student. As I said, like the male student was changing maybe his opinion during the conversation, but the person who right away went straight to disagree and confront this idea was the female student, right? So very if you always talk to that singular manner, like one of them disagree or one of them agree, just in case to avoid that type of maybe confusion and mistake, right? Because maybe the reviewer doesn't consider that both of them were disagreeing, but considers that there is some sort of evolution in the male's opinion. Okay, so well, but better if you always go for the safest manner to approach the exam, right? Which I think it's that one. Apart from that, great response, right? Maybe you didn't have time to complete the second one, but if you look at the clock and you say, well, I don't have time, continue speaking like until the last word, right? Because if you look at the clock and you say, okay, I still have 10 seconds, but that is not sufficient for me to finalize my explanation of the second argument, for example. Better if you use them anyways, like use them, and if the time is over, well, of course, at that point you stop listening, you stop speaking. But if it is not over, the time is counting yet, so you can use it, right? It's not necessary to stop when you consider that the time is not going to be sufficient. Yeah, Daniela, you have a question?
Yes, teacher. I don't know if we will have this kind of beep when we end that question. I don't know. Like the another questions that we have the last week, that we have like a beep or end the answer. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, there is like when you finalize the response, the speaker, right? Like there is a bit sound like beep, and then the speaker says, well, now you have finalized with the second question and you move on. There is such a thing. So in this case, of course, we're not using it. But the idea is that instead of waiting for the alarm, let's say, or the beep sound to be emitted, better if you look at the clock, because sometimes, let's say that you merely wait for the alarm to be activated. Instead of maybe making an efficient use of your time, you're going to wait for the alarm to sound. And when you do so, you're not actually thinking about how could you invest your time with the chronometer you have before you. Because when you look at the clock, right, and you are constantly looking at the chronometer, and you say, okay, I have 10 seconds. Instead of pronouncing a very long sentence, what you're going to naturally do is, hey, if I still have 10 seconds, but I still have to talk about the second argument, instead of making a long explanation as I had planned to do, better if I just make it very concise, right? And very much vague. At the end, you don't have any other chance, right? Because you have 10 seconds. So the best manner to measure the time is not to wait for the alarm to sound, is by looking at the clock and thus realizing by yourself and calibrating how much time would it be good for you to invest at every single point during the response, okay? But anyways, of course, the alarm is going to sound at the end and also at the beginning, as I told you. Yeah, is that fine? Okay, my pleasure. Great. And well, what about Arlette? So Arlette, also great response. I think that this was certainly fantastic. Great summary of the reading part, great transition to the arguments, and a very efficient summary of the conversation, right? Always talking about the female student, in this case, the main speaker, and of course, focus on that person. It's always fantastic because at the end, that's what the question is asking you for, right? The main speaker, the female speaker in this case. Very good. Well, let's go to another exercise. We have more. Let us go. Okay, here we are. So I'm gonna paste this new passage in both of our sources once again, chat box. Sorry. All right. All right, there you are. And now here in the chat box, no, excuse me, in the WhatsApp group, there. So both of you can start reading this passage now. Okay, fantastic. There you are. Now, let's go and listen to a conversation on the same topic.
Now, listen to two students discussing the announcement.
Did you hear about the new food court on South Campus?
Yeah, man, it's too bad they're getting rid of the cafeteria.
What? Why? Won't it be good to have a few more options?
I don't know. I don't feel like this really gives us more choices. The cafeteria already had dishes from other countries. They had vegetarian options and customizable sandwiches, too. It's not like the quality of this new food court's ingredients is going to be much better than what we had. I'll bet it's all from the same source, even.
You think? I mean, yeah, if they don't even change their supplier, the offerings probably won't be all that different.
Exactly. Just pricier.
Wait, why is that?
The cafeteria was all you can eat. You'd get as much food as you wanted for a flat price. But at a food court, you've got to order individual meals. That ends up costing more.
You've always liked to load up a big plate, huh?
You've got that right. If I have to buy 4 meals every day, it's going to be hard on my wallet.
The man expresses his opinion about the change described in the article. Briefly summarize the change. Then state his opinion about the change and explain the reasons he gives for holding that opinion.
There you are. Well, let's go then to prepare our responses. In this case, we have 30 seconds. So please, both of you, start preparing them now. There you are. Well, in this case, our dear Arlette is going to start with the round. So please, dear Arlette, you can start responding to the question now.
Okay, to begin with, in the reading passage, they say in the campus, the cafeteria will be replaced by a new food court. On the other hand, we have a student who disagrees with this new change because he thinks there will be more expensive to buy food because right now in the cafeteria he can eat a lot of food for the same price, but in the other hand, in the new courtroom, in the new the new modality. Sorry, my time is over.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyways, very good response. All right, and now let's finalize this round with Daniela. Okay, dear Daniela, you can start responding now.
Okay. To begin with, in the reading passage, we read about the cafeteria will be replaced for a new food court. On another hand, we listened about two students. One of them disagrees about it because these kind of dishes of the new food court will be more pricier, will be pricier, and they have already dishes that are international and for a lot variety in the cafeteria that they have already. And in another hand, he is worried about the money that he can save or not can save for this kind of dishes that will be pricier. Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Great. Well, now let me offer some feedback, okay? So great, Arlette. So I think that you offered a great response. Maybe the word you were looking for was food court, right? But don't worry, it's just a very weird term, I guess.
Yes.
Food court. We're not very much used to it, right? Accustomed to it in Latin America. But the response was great anyways, right? You know, when this happens to you, dear Arlette, that you forget a term that has been mentioned in the reading passage or in the listening passage, you could just replace it. You can say this new facility for students to eat. As I recommended you when we talked about what happens if you forget a word, and I told you, right? If you forget a word, oh, don't worry. Just think a sentence. Think about a sentence that is very simple and could replace that in a very basic level, right? So if you forget the word, for example, I don't know, let's say forget the word table, right? Although very rarely you're gonna find people forgetting that word. Could say this furniture, this piece of furniture we use in order to have our meals on, right? Just look for another sentence that descriptively means exactly the same. And in this case, you could have done exactly the same when, as I say, you could mention, instead of saying food court, this new facility for students to eat, or this new construction in or on campus, on the southern part of campus, something like that. Okay, great. Anyways, apart from that, great response. Okay, very good. And then we have Daniela. So Daniela here, fantastic. Oh yeah, Arlette has a question. Please, Arlette, tell me.
Yes, I'm a little bit confused. In this type of questions, there is it's not necessary to give our opinion, right?
Yes,
Only summarize.
exactly. Mhm.
Okay,
Only
okay.
summarizing. Yeah, like you're right. Like summarizing what the speakers said. And what I meant when I told you, right? If you forget a word, it's not to look like, let's say, for something that has not been mentioned in the sense that has nothing to do with it. So when I tell you, when you forget a word, just look for another one. What I mean is look for a word that, although it's not the same that has been mentioned there, represents the exact same idea, right? Not to say like, if they are talking about, for example, a cafeteria, you could say, no, but I think that both of those options are erroneous. I would say that they actually need to construct a 5 stars restaurant on campus. You couldn't say that, right? You couldn't say that. Why? Because you are not asked in this question to complement or to give your opinion. But what you can do, of course, is that if you forget a word and a specific word that has been mentioned in the passage or in the conversation, you can replace it by another word of your own that means exactly the same, right? Because notice, you're not changing the content. The only thing that you're doing is to look for an alternative manner to express exactly the same. That in this case, if you forget a word, is of course the right path to take. Okay, so that's the idea. Yeah, is that fine?
Okay, yes, thank you.
My pleasure. Very good. So I was here talking to our dear Daniela, and as I said, it was a great response. And here I have just two very brief observations with regard to pronunciation. Notice that when you say cafeteria, right? Cafeteria, like as if you were mentioning two I's, like cafeteria, right? Cafeteria. It's very important to get that pronunciation right, because trust me, cafeterias are normally the type of things that appear on this question. Cafeterias, campus, I don't know, activities, societies, but cafeteria, right? Cafeteria. There's an accent in the T. Cafeteria is with I, right? With an I, con una I, cafeteria, right? And when you use the word on the other hand, or the transition, actually in this case, right? The transition phrase or the connector on the other hand, try to always pronounce that sentence like that, on the other hand, not another hand or on another hand. Because when you use another, that is grammatically incorrect. It's better to say on the other hand, right? Por otra mano, right? Or por otra parte, on the other hand, right? Try to pronounce it that way. But apart from that, great response. It's just some little details, right? Great. Well, so before we go, let's go and practice one more. Gotta take this. There you have it. Here as well. And now you can start reading. Great, there you are. And now listen to a conversation on the same topic.
Now listen to two students discussing the announcement.
So did you hear that the university is cutting its transportation budget and ending all bus service?
I did hear that. But it's no big deal, right? I mean, the university is also compensating all students with $50 vouchers for public transportation. The vouchers can be used on, like, the subway and public buses. So it sounds like there won't be a big problem.
Are you kidding me? This is going to be horribly inconvenient. I mean, like, first of all, there's no public transportation to the DeWolf Science Center. It's far away from any subway and bus station, and getting there will require a 20-minute walk through some of the worst neighborhoods in the city.
I guess that will be a problem for some people. But try to look at it this way. There's too much division in this country between university students and the people who live in the cities around them. Won't this encourage a spirit of togetherness, like when we're all using the same public transportation?
But actually, I think that this policy, that it won't help create much new interaction between students and city dwellers at all.
Why not?
Well, because $50 is not very much money. I mean, it'll probably only cover about a month's worth of subway or bus passes. And, you know, most students won't be able to afford to take public transportation. So with students forced to walk everywhere, I just don't understand where all of this great new interaction is going to be happening.
The female student expresses her opinion about why she disagrees with the university's new policy. State her opinion and explain the reasons she gives for holding that opinion.
There you are, guys. Fantastic. Well, so it's time for us then to go and respond. Okay, you can prepare your responses now. Beautiful. Now, please, dear Daniela, you can start responding to this question now.
To begin with, in the reading passage, we see about university are changing the complementary transportations for a $50 pass. On the other hand, two students are discussing about it, and one of them disagrees of this because she thought that it's not convenient for a lot of students that are living far away from the university. They will walk a lot, and it's not a good transportation way in the city because it's really far. And another reason is the university wants that these students have more communication with the local community. Okay, I'm done. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Don't worry. Thank you very much. And now, please, dear Arlette, you can continue with her response now.
To begin with, in the reading passage, we read about a new policy of the university that the transportation in the campus will be replaced by a $50 pass. And on the other hand, a student disagrees with this new policy because she thinks it's inconvenient for students because the transportation is more expensive. And these $50 will last only 1 or 2 months. Also, she thinks there are many students who live far away from the campus, and the facilities or laboratories are also.
Okay, fantastic. Great, thank you very much, guys. Well, very much happy then for the incredible responses you were offering tonight. I find that both of you have improved a lot. I think that both of you are able to perceive such a thing, and great. I just want to congratulate you. Okay, and well, we're gonna stop here our class tonight, and tomorrow we're gonna get into the speaking section task number 3. All right. And well, please, before you go, help me with your kind responses to our poll, and I'm going to take your assistance too. And if you have any question, any commentary, please let me know. Okay. Tomorrow, by the way, classes are going to be normal. Okay. The delay was just for today, but tomorrow we're going to have very normal classes. Okay, at 8 p.m. So here we have our Let's Gabriela.
Hi, present.
Thank you very much, Arlette. And finally, we have Daniela Lourdes.
Yes, teacher, present.
Thank you very much, guys. Well, thank you very much then for your assistance. Have a wonderful night, and I see you tomorrow. Okay?
Thank you. Bye, teacher.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. See you.
Bye.